My wife once looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're useless." I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I smiled, packed my bags, and walked out. 2 weeks later, she was on my doorstep, crying, shaking, begging me to come back. And I told her 6 little words that ended everything. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Folks, Uncle Mickle here. I've got a story today that'll sit heavy on your chest and maybe, just maybe, free someone stuck in a life like I was. A story about love, betrayal, finding my spine, and learning the true value of respect, especially self-respect. If you've ever felt taken for granted, this one's for you. Before I get into this, do me a favor and drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from and what time it is right now. And if stories like mine hit you where it hurts, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Helps Uncle Mickle keep bringing you the truth nobody else wants to talk about. All right, let me take you back. This all started about 3 years ago, on a warm Friday morning in Tennessee. The kind where the world feels soft, like biscuits cooling on a windowsill, and nothing truly bad could happen. I was 45 then, already a man who believed he understood loyalty. I'd worked the same job for 20 years at a local hardware store. Nothing glamorous, but honest work. People knew my name, trusted me. And at home, well, I thought I had love waiting on the couch every evening. Her name was Danielle, 38, dark hair, bright laugh, the kind that used to light up a room and make me feel lucky to just be standing beside her. We'd been married 11 years. We weren't perfect, no couple is, but I believed we were solid. We paid bills together, took Sunday drives, argued about laundry, made up over pancakes. Normal life. Comfortable life. At least, that's what I thought. Back then, I still cooked us dinner most nights. I'd hum old country tunes while I fried chicken or stirred chili, and she'd sit at the table scrolling through her phone, half listening to whatever story I told about work. I didn't mind, or said I didn't. I guess I was just happy she was there. Happy to be needed. Funny how a man can mistake being used for being needed. That day, the one that started the fall, we were supposed to have guests. Danielle's childhood friends, Amy, the loud one with opinions on everything, and Tara, the polite one, always smiling like she knew something the rest of us didn't. They came over once a month to catch up, drink wine, gossip about marriages and careers. They talk about girls' trips they wanted to take, new diets, who'd bought what on sale. I usually hovered quiet in the background, played host, fetched drinks, grilled steaks when they stayed for dinner. I liked making Danielle happy. I really did. But that Friday, something small, too small to matter at the time, shifted in the air. I was setting out cheese and crackers, thinking we'd have a warm evening like usual, when I heard laughter from the living room. Not soft laughter. Sharp. Almost mean. Danielle was in there with her friends, talking fast, voice a little too high. The way she gets when she wants to impress. I remember wiping my hands on a towel, stepping closer, and just catching a sentence that made me freeze. Mickle? Oh, he's harmless. Kinda useless around the house, unless it involves food. Useless. The word hit me like a slap I wasn't supposed to see coming. They all laughed. Even Tara, sweet, polite Tara, though hers was a softer giggle, like she didn't know if she should. I stood there, out of sight, tray in my hands cooling, heart sinking like a stone in a pond. She wasn't joking the way you tease someone you love. Her tone had a bite, a casual cruelty. And let me tell you something. A small disrespect is never small. Not if it's repeated. Not if it's easy for them. I shook it off. Told myself I imagined it. Maybe I was tired, sensitive. I walked in smiling, placed the snacks down, kissed Danielle lightly on the head. She barely looked up, just waved me off like a waiter in a restaurant. I didn't understand it then, but that moment was the first loose thread in a marriage I thought was tight-stitched. And once a thread starts pulling, well, it only unravels faster. What happened next still stings to remember. Because that useless comment? It was just the beginning. Looking back now, life before everything blew apart feels like an old photograph, sun-faded, warm, and just a little too perfect to have been real. Back then, I believed marriage was built on sacrifice. You work, you provide, you stay loyal. You take the hits life throws at you, and you keep walking. That's how my father raised me. A man stand his ground, he used to say. And I thought standing my ground meant staying, enduring, being patient, being good, maybe too good. Every morning I woke before sunrise, brewed coffee, packed Danielle's lunch even though she worked from home most days. I'd leave a note on a sticky pad. Love you. Have a good day. Or dinner tonight is your favorite. Little efforts. No grand gestures. Just steady care. The kind that builds a home. She used to appreciate it. Used to. You know how memory tricks you? Makes you focus on the laughter and the kisses and the little road trips, ignoring the times her smile felt forced, or her tone turned sharp when talking about money, or the nights she fell asleep clutching her phone like it mattered more than the man beside her. I brushed off those things. Told myself every couple has seasons. Winter always ends, right? But here's another line worth keeping in your pocket. Winter doesn't end if one person keeps the door open. We'd watch TV on the couch, her legs thrown over mine, but she'd be scrolling through social media at the same time, laughing at something I couldn't see. I'd say, "What you looking at?" She'd shrug, "Just stuff." No warmth. No invitation. There were good days, too. Holidays where we decorated cookies together, birthdays with cheap balloons and bad singing. We took photos, smiled wide, posted them online like proof. Proof for who? I don't know. Maybe for ourselves. Maybe for the world. Maybe to hide the small cracks growing under the paint. One Saturday I remember clearly, early fall. The kind where leaves start turning and you can smell change on the air. Danielle came into the kitchen wearing an old worn sweater of mine that used to melt me, seeing her in my clothes. She hugged me from behind while I fried eggs, rested her chin on my shoulder. For a moment, things felt right. She whispered, soft as honey, "We're good, aren't we?" And I said, too confidently, "Yeah, we're solid." But her eyes drifted away before mine did. A week later, she started going out more. Spa day with the girls, wine tasting, brunch downtown. I didn't mind, trust is important, but she stopped inviting me places, stopped asking about my day. I chalked it up to stress, work, routine. Told myself it was normal. But there were signs. She bought new clothes. Spent more time doing makeup, even when she had nowhere special to go. Started locking her phone with a passcode she never used before. And when messages pinged, she'd angle the screen away, just slightly. Subtle. Too subtle to confront, but enough to feel. I pushed down the unease. Let myself believe love was enough to fix whatever this was. I convinced myself I was overthinking, that every marriage had distant weeks, and that soon we'd swing back. But distance stayed. One night I asked gently, "Everything okay between us?" She sighed, not sad, not angry, just tired of me. "You're always asking that." "I'm fine. We're fine. We're fine." Let me tell you, whenever someone repeats that phrase, it usually means you're not. Still, I kept moving through life like a man who trusted his foundation, unaware termites were chewing quietly underneath. We had a rhythm, dinner, dishes, she scrolled, I cleaned. I'd sit beside her on the couch, drifting off during some show she picked. She'd laugh at something online, but never turn the screen toward me. I told myself I was imagining the wall growing between us, brick by brick. But one night, just before everything changed, she fell asleep on the couch. Her phone slipped from her hand and buzzed on the cushion beside her. A name flashed across the screen. A name I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped, but I didn't touch it. Not then. Instead, I stood in the dark living room, listening to her soft breathing, wondering why I suddenly felt like a stranger in my own home. And I remember thinking, something's coming, and I'm not ready for it. I couldn't stop thinking about that unfamiliar name glowing on her phone. It stayed with me like a thorn under the skin, small, but impossible to ignore. I didn't touch it that night, though God knows I wanted to. Instead, I went to bed alone, mind spinning circles. I lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering who messages a married woman after midnight with a little heart emoji at the end. But curiosity is a slow poison. It starts with a whisper, "Look closer," then grows louder, "Something's wrong." Next morning Danielle acted normal. Too normal. She was humming while she spread cream cheese on a bagel, something she only did when she was in a good mood, or trying hard to look like she was. I watched her from a kitchen island, coffee cooling untouched in my hands. "You sleep okay?" she asked without really looking at me. "Mostly," I said. "Heard your phone go off late." Her back stiffened just slightly, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. Then she shrugged like it meant nothing. "Oh, just Amy sending memes. You know her." But I didn't know Amy. And she didn't put hearts at the end of messages. She used laughing emojis. Always had. Still, I nodded and let it go. One lie isn't always obvious. It's the tone that gives it away. Days passed. That name kept appearing. First once a night. Then twice. Then during the day when she thought I wasn't paying attention. I learned to glance casually. Never long enough to look suspicious. Just enough to confirm. Evan. That was the name. I'd never heard her mention an Evan before. Not a co-worker. Not a family friend. It gnawed at me quietly. But a man can convince himself of anything if he loves someone enough. And I loved her. Deeply. Maybe too deeply. One evening she said she needed to run to the store for a few things. It was nearly 9 p.m. Late for errands, but I nodded. I didn't want to be controlling. Didn't want to be that husband. She grabbed her purse fast, like the door might close before she reached it. "Don't wait up," she said. I watched through the window as her taillights disappeared, a cold feeling settling into my chest. Something in me whispered, "Follow her." But I didn't. Not yet. I sat back down on the couch, turned on the TV, stared through it for an hour. Then 2. She came home past midnight with nothing but a receipt in her pocket, and a faint smell of cologne that wasn't mine clinging to her coat. I asked her how shopping went. "Fine," she said too quickly, avoiding my eyes. Then she walked past me. No kiss, no warmth. Straight to the bedroom. I followed later, heart heavy, mind buzzing. She was already asleep facing the wall. That was the first moment I admitted to myself. Something was wrong, and she didn't want me to ask why. The next weekend, she hosted another get-together with her friends. I grilled steaks outside, hearing them chatter inside through the screen door. Laughter, clinking glasses, gossip. Then I heard Amy say something that froze my blood. "So, when are you telling him?" They went quiet, the kind of quiet that screams louder than words. Danielle's voice was low, tense. "Not yet. He's sensitive." Sensitive. Like caring was a weakness. They kept talking, but hushed, muffled. I strained to hear, but only caught fragments. "Evan thinks later not fair to Mickle." My name in another man's sentence. Nothing hurts quite like that. I stepped inside, pretended I heard nothing. Served the food. Smiled. Played the good husband. But something inside me had shifted. A small crack turning into a fault line. Later that night, after everyone left and dishes were washed, Danielle stood in the hallway scrolling her phone. I approached slow, heart hammering, trying to keep my voice calm. "Who's Evan?" She flinched, caught off guard. Eyes widened for a split second before she smoothed her expression like clay. "Just someone I met through a work forum." "Why?" "Jealous," she said with a smirk that didn't reach her eyes. I forced a smile. "Just curious." She shrugged again, dismissive. "Don't worry about it." But I did. More than she knew. You can ignore a thought. You can't ignore a pattern. Messages late at night. Locked phone. New clothes. Strange cologne. Whispers with friends. Piece by piece, the puzzle formed a picture I didn't want to see. And something inside me whispered again, louder this time. It's time to know the truth. Once a man starts looking for the truth, he finds it, whether he's ready or not. I tried to shake the doubt. Tried telling myself marriage is built on trust. But trust isn't blind. It's earned. And lately, Danielle wasn't earning much of anything from me but suspicion. A few days after that hallway conversation, she mentioned a work conference 2 towns over. 2 days long. She'd never traveled for work in 11 years. But I smiled, nodded, helped her pack. When she hugged me before leaving, her arms were loose around my neck, like hugging a distant relative instead of a husband. She left Friday morning. By noon that same day, I felt sick thinking about her with someone else. Or worse, thinking about myself sitting home like a fool. A gut feeling is a man's sixth sense. My gut wouldn't shut up. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I drove to the hotel she said she'd be at. Didn't tell her. Didn't call. Just drove. Shaking hands, sweaty palms gripping the wheel. Every mile felt like I was heading toward a cliff, knowing I'd fall off the edge when I got there. But I had to know. I arrived around 3 p.m. Sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at the building like it might swallow me whole. Finally, I stepped inside, walked to the front desk, and asked if I could leave something for my wife, Danielle Harris. The receptionist typed for a moment. Her brow lifted. "We don't have anyone under that name checked in." My heart dropped, heavy, cold, final. I asked again, voice tight. She double-checked. Still nothing. Outside, rain had started slow. Cold drops tapping the pavement like a clock counting down to something I couldn't stop. I sat in my truck, chest tight, breathing shallow. Then I noticed a message on my phone. A photo Danielle had sent an hour earlier. Hotel room. View from a window. A wine glass on a nightstand. I zoomed in. The reflection on the glass, a man's hand. Men's watch. Leather band. Not mine. My vision blurred. Sound muted. The world shrank to a point of pain, right behind my ribs. I couldn't speak. Couldn't think. Just sat there as rain streaked down the windshield. Like the sky was crying for me, because I couldn't yet. The truth doesn't break you. It strips you down so you see what's left. I wasn't ready, but I wasn't done either. I waited. Hours passed. Around 7 p.m., I saw her car pull into the lot. The same car she supposedly left town in. She got out laughing, hair messy in the way wind alone doesn't cause. And next to her a man. Tall. Clean-shaven. Wearing that same leather watch. Evan. They didn't see me. They walked inside together, close enough their arms brushed. Not touching, careful, but comfortable. Too comfortable. I followed at a distance. Watched them head into the bar. She leaned in close to him, smiling in a way she hadn't smiled at me in years. That hurt more than any physical betrayal could. Joy. Joy she didn't share with me anymore. I left before I collapsed. Driving home, I didn't play music. Didn't cry. I just felt hollow. Like someone scooped out everything I'd built my life around and left an echo where love used to live. When she returned Sunday night, she kissed my cheek and said she missed me. I tasted wine on her breath. I said nothing. Just watched her unpack, clothes neatly folded, makeup bag still zipped. Almost like she had erased any trace of the weekend. Almost. But as she showered, her phone buzzed on the counter. No lock screen this time. Must have forgot in a rush. My hand shook when I picked it up. Messages. Dozens. From Evan. Miss you already. Can't stop thinking about you. Next time he won't stop you. And then, the punch to the soul. Did you tell him he's useless yet? My blood ran cold. My heart cracked so loud I swear I heard it. Every doubt confirmed. Every suspicion real. This wasn't emotional drifting. It wasn't harmless chatting. It was betrayal. Full. Open. Repeated. Planned. And in that moment, something inside me died, but something else was born. Not rage. Not revenge. Clarity. I put her phone back exactly where it was. Walked outside into the cool night air. Looked up at the sky like it might answer me. And I thought, she thinks I'm weak. She thinks I'll stay. She thinks I won't do anything. But she was wrong. Because a man can take pain. He can swallow disrespect. But once he sees the truth, he never unsees it. And I already knew the next move was mine. I stood out there in the night air for a long time after reading those messages. Long enough for the cicadas to quiet down and the streetlights to hum. I wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't even angry yet. I was empty. A quiet kind of empty that comes right before a man decides who he really is. Inside that emptiness, something slow and cold started forming. Not rage. Not passion. Resolve. Danielle came outside later, hair wrapped in a towel, smelling like hibiscus, soap I used to love. She smiled, asked if I wanted to watch a movie, as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't spent the weekend in another man's arms. I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone who thought I would swallow anything so long as she offered a scrap of affection. Someone who believed she was untouchable in our home. Someone who decided I was useless, long before she ever said it out loud. That night I said something simple, something she didn't expect. Sure, a movie sounds nice. Her shoulders relaxed. She thought she still had me wrapped around her finger. But I was already miles ahead, planning silently. Watching. Learning. Because when a betrayal is confirmed, you get two choices. Break, or rebuild into something harder. I chose the latter. Over the next week, I observed quietly. I didn't confront her. I didn't snoop again. I didn't beg. I gave her nothing to react to. Nothing to defend, deny, or twist. And that silence made her careless. She texted Evan in the bathroom. In bed. Sometimes sitting right beside me. Phone tilted just enough. She thought I was too dull to notice. Too soft. But I learned her schedule. What nights she worked late. Which hours she showered longest. What perfume she wore before seeing him. A scent she never put on for me. I started saving money quietly. Opened a new account. Pulled half my paycheck over. Canceled automatic transfers to our joint savings. Little steps. Invisible ones. Then I met with a lawyer. A friend from high school I hadn't talked to in years. We sat in his office, blinds half open, dust dancing in the sun. I think my wife is cheating. I said simply. You think or you know? He asked. I hesitated. I know. He nodded slowly. Told me my options. What separation would look like. How to protect assets. How to step away smart, not emotional. Not explosive. Strategic. He said something that stuck with me. The one who stays calm holds the power. I walked out with paperwork. Not to file that day, but to have ready. Prepared. Like ammo. At home, I became a ghost with a heartbeat. Helping with dishes, mowing the lawn, making her coffee like always. But inside, I was packing away affection like storing winter clothes, folding it, boxing it, putting it up high where she couldn't reach it again. The distance didn't bother her at first. She was too distracted, too entertained. But small cracks appeared. She started asking where I was going when I left the house, who I was texting, why I was quiet. Funny how the cheater grows suspicious before the betrayed does. One night, she came into the kitchen late, found me drinking coffee alone in the dark. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. We're distant lately, she said. I raised a brow. Are we? She frowned, confused. I'd always been the one who tried, comforted, bridged gaps. She wasn't ready for indifference. You're not upset about anything? She asked carefully. I shrugged. No reason to be. That rattled her. She stared at me like she was trying to read a language she forgot. Because love withdrawn quietly is scarier than anger unleashed loudly. I saw a flicker of worry, just a flicker, but enough. She changed then. Just a little. Started cooking occasionally. Complimenting me. Laughing at jokes she used to ignore. Guilt does that. But guilt isn't love. And attention offered out of fear isn't affection, it's maintenance. Like watering a plant because you don't want the neighbors to see it die. I watched her efforts like a man standing outside in the snow, staring through a window at a fire he used to warm his hands by. Tempting, familiar, but no longer home. And that's when the real plan formed. Not revenge. Not pettiness. Freedom. I realized I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to fight for scraps. I didn't want to share a bed with a memory of who she used to be. I wanted out, but I wanted out clean. I started packing little things quietly over the next 2 weeks. Tools from the garage. My granddad's pocket knife. Old photographs I couldn't bear to leave. Clothes folded small inside duffel bags and stored in the trunk. Bit by bit, my life left that house before I did. She didn't notice. Or didn't care. Maybe both. I even wrote a note. Just one line that repeated in my head like a prayer. You don't value what you think you'll never lose. She still thought she had me. She still thought I was staying. But the day was coming when she'd learn the truth. The day she'd call me useless, and I'd give her silence sharper than a knife. And in that silence, everything would change. Shrink in the rear view, a chapter closing behind me. Her final scream echoed down the street. Please come back. But I didn't. Because freedom sounds exactly like a door closing behind you. I drove that night with the windows cracked just enough for the cool air to bite my cheeks. No destination in mind, just away. Streetlights flickered past like the seconds of a life I was finally stepping out of. Funny thing about leaving a marriage, you expect fireworks, collapse, grief so loud it drowns thought. But what I felt was quiet, a deep, steady quiet, like walking out of a storm and realizing the world is still there, waiting. I checked into a modest motel off the highway. Nothing fancy, buzzing neon sign, faded carpet, lukewarm shower, but it felt like sanctuary. I sat on the stiff mattress, suitcase open beside me, and for the first time in a long time, I breathed without feeling like I owed someone an apology for it. That night I slept straight through. No checking if she was still beside me. No wondering who she was texting. No lying awake feeling small. Just rest. Heavy, honest rest. Morning sunlight came pale through the blinds. I made instant coffee with a little plastic packet and sipped it slow. It tasted like freedom. The next few weeks were harder, I won't lie to you. Freedom isn't always sweet. Sometimes it's bitter on the front end before it warms you. I had to find an apartment. Had to adjust to silence that wasn't hostile, just empty. Some nights I missed the routine. Missed her laugh, or the memory of it. But missing someone doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. It just means you're human. I filed the papers quietly. No screaming match. No dramatic showdown. Just signatures and reality. Danielle tried calling. First soft and pleading. Then angry. Then desperate again. I didn't block her. I just rarely answered. Once she asked, "Why didn't you fight for us?" And I told her the truth, calm, plain. I did. For years. You just didn't notice until I stopped. She cried. Said things could change. Said she made a mistake. That Evan was a moment of weakness. A stupid fling. She said she loved me. Words she hadn't said with meaning in a long time. But love without respect is a house without foundation. Looks like shelter. Collapses under weight. Our divorce finalized quietly one rainy Thursday. No crowd. No applause. Just 2 signatures. And a fading echo of vows we once meant with all our hearts. I walked out of the courthouse with a manila folder under my arm and a strange weight lifted off my shoulders, like walking out of a burning room you didn't realize you were choking in. Life rebuilt itself slowly after that. I picked up extra shifts at work, found comfort in routine done for myself rather than for someone else. Saturday mornings became sacred. Breakfast at the local diner, black coffee, scrambled eggs, peaceful hum of strangers living their own lives. The waitress, Carol, always smiled, called me Han, in that motherly Tennessee way. Small kindness. Warm. I started fishing again, something I used to love, but gave up because Danielle didn't enjoy the outdoors. I stood by the river one dawn, mist rising off the water like breath, and realized I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Content. Not happy every second. Not healed overnight. But content, rebuilding on solid ground. 2 weeks after the divorce, Danielle showed up at my apartment. Mascara streaked again, eyes swollen. Just like that night on the driveway. Only now, the power was different, balanced on my side of the door. She said, voice trembling, "Mickle, I miss you. I regret everything. I don't know who I am without you." And there it was, the moment most men crumble. The moment soft memories beg for one more chance. But I remembered hotel reflections. Messages. Useless. I remembered the weight of knowing I was alone long before I left. I stepped outside, closed the door gently behind me so the neighbors wouldn't hear. We talked on the steps like 2 people mourning something already gone. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't triumphant. I was calm. She begged me to try again. Promised change. Promised counseling. Promised love. I listened. I breathed. I let the past settle on my tongue like old whiskey. Then I said quietly, "You didn't lose me when you cheated. You lost me when you decided I wasn't worth keeping." She broke again, not dramatic like a scene from a show, just defeated. Soft. And in her tears, I felt compassion, not desire. I hugged her once, gently, like saying goodbye to a ghost. She left that day, and for the first time, she didn't come back. And I kept living. That's the strange part nobody tells you. Life goes on. Pain fades. Self-respect grows like new grass over burned fields. I'm not angry anymore. Just older, wiser, quieter. A man who learned his value by losing what he thought he couldn't live without. The world didn't end. It simply changed shape. Time passed, like it always does. Seasons changed. The ache softened. The distance between who I was then and who I am now grew wider. Like a bridge I burned behind me. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. People ask sometimes if I ever regret leaving. Truth is, I regret staying as long as I did. When you love someone, you give them pieces of your life. Hours, days, years. Sometimes you hand over so much that one day you look down and there's not enough left to call your own. That was me. A man who thought loyalty meant endurance. A man who believed love could survive on patience alone. But love without respect? That's a slow death, polite, quiet, suffocating. I used to replay memories like old tapes. The laughter, the road trips, the pancakes on Sunday mornings. I'd wonder where we lost ourselves. Was it one moment? 100 small ones? Did she stop loving me first? Or did I stop loving myself enough to walk away sooner? Then one morning, while sipping coffee by the window of my new place, I realized something that settled warm in my chest. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave the life that's killing you. Not out of hate, but out of love for yourself. Healing wasn't a straight line. There were nights the silence felt heavy. Days I questioned everything. But healing doesn't ask for perfection, only progress. I learned to cook for one without feeling lonely. I redecorated my apartment with things that reflected me, not us. I found joy in small routines, opening blinds every morning, watering a little plant on the windowsill, calling my sister just to talk. And slowly, without fanfare, I came back to myself. One fall evening, I ran into Danielle at the grocery store. No script could prepare you for that kind of moment. She looked smaller somehow, not physically, just dimmer. Like the light she carried during our early years had faded under the weight of regret. We talked politely, two adults with shared history and separate futures. She asked if I was doing well. I looked at her and told her the truth. I'm better than I've been in a long time. She nodded, smiled real, bittersweet, and walked away down the aisle. No begging, no scene, just closure, quiet and clean. Life doesn't always give you a dramatic ending. Sometimes it gives you peace instead. I'll take peace every time. Nowadays, when I sit on my porch with a glass of sweet tea and watch the world settle into evening, I think about what I tell the man I used to be. The version of me who stood in that kitchen, hearing the word useless. I'd put a hand on his shoulder and say, "You're not useless. You were just with someone who couldn't see your worth." And to anyone listening who feels like they're shrinking inside a relationship, who's being mocked instead of loved, who's begged for crumbs of affection, hear me when I say, you don't have to stay where you're not respected. You don't have to bleed to prove you love someone. Sometimes walking away is the loudest "I matter" you'll ever speak. And if you ever forget that, come back, listen to this story again. Let it remind you. So that's my story, folks. If it resonated with you, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I want to know how far Uncle Mickle's voice travels. In the end, respect isn't demanded, it's earned. And the person you must never stop respecting is yourself.